G'day everyone, it's Tony here from the Mortgage Chat, and today I have a gentleman in the name of Charbel Simon from Refine Group, who is a builder. Charbel, thanks for joining me on this podcast.
Thanks for having us here.
So Charbel, just before we get into it, can you tell our audience a bit about yourself?
Yes, Refine Group is a building company. We were established in 2017. We're a residential builder. We specialise mostly in new homes. We've got two parts of the business, though. We also do pools and landscapes. I was originally a landscaper and then moved into pools, and then now, since 2017, we've been in new homes. The market predominantly focuses on builds between 700 to 1.5 million, and our pools are generally more higher range pools as part of that.
Right. So what made you get into the building industry, buddy?
The building industry was kind of in my blood. My family are all in the building industry. Whilst my parents tried to push me to take the university route, I actually initially started doing accounting. I kind of realised after a bit of time it wasn't for me. I did pursue it. I mean, I do have an accounting background, and then I just ended up just not wanting to stay in that path and started actually getting into landscaping and building from
Nice.
But I mean, I found that has helped me having that accounting background and the business background.
Yeah, of course.
Because once I did move out of that, I actually started to move into more estimating roles as well.
Good. Well, you need that accounting background to understand how to run a business anyway.
Well, particularly builders a bit different to trades. I mean, they really are running a business a lot more so. I mean, they're about cash flow, understanding. I mean, cash flow is king in building. And it is really important having that background and the understanding of building, the understanding of accounting, I should say. So I think it's definitely an advantage. And it's you can kind of sometimes see, like I know some really good tradespeople, but sometimes they're not very good business people. Or like, same goes with builders. So I think having that background has been, especially as we've like I think builders have evolved over time. They're kind of more. You have to understand business. You have to understand cash flow. You have to understand those things. I think the times of the builder who was just on the tools. I mean, you've got homeowners warranty to deal with now. You've got insurances. You've got to be able to deal with the banks. So their understanding has to go more than just nailing a timber into a nail into wood and so from here as well.
All right. So talk about businesses, right? So as a builder, okay, and as a consumer. Can you explain to our audience what is the difference between as an independent builder like yourself or let's say, for example, like a project builder, right? Rawson, Metricon, McDonald Jones Home, Mojo Homes, all that. What's the difference between you and them?
I mean, ultimately we all build homes. There's not we deliver the same product to some degree, but they tend to be say a project home builder. Let's talk about a Clarendon or a Metricon. They have designs, set designs, and you select those designs and then they build for you. On top of that too, they're building at a minimum, I would say, they would start from 100 homes per year. Right.
So when you say they have a design, it's like, hey, there's no chop and change?
They will allow you to change to a degree.
Right, to a degree. Right.
To a degree. And they will allow you to change, I imagine. Well, it depends. Some builders will be very strict about it, some won't be. So it does depend on the builder. But then there is a market for that. There's some people who want to walk in and not think about it. So it's dependent. I mean, it works for some people, it doesn't for others. But the other difference with them is it's more of a process driven business. They are about numbers. You might have a supervisor who's looking after 15 properties at any one time.
So like a site factory then.
A site supervisor will be looking after 15 properties at minimum at any one time. So you can imagine those people are stretched, but that's one of the ways they keep their costs down. Whereas someone like myself, I mean, you're the person, I'm the person you're dealing with from start to beginning. We do have our own designs as well, but that's mainly just to start people off and then we start to customise. Right. Or we do work with people's designs that they've gone to an architect with.
Right, I got you.
But I mean, I myself would never be taking more than 2 to 3 projects at any one time. You're dealing with me throughout the whole process. It's a more personable interaction and that works for some people and the project homes work for others. They just want to get it. They want to walk into a design, into a display home and that's what I want and that's what I want to be received. They don't want to be involved more than that. So there's a place I think, for everyone.
Right. So just to get an understanding is, okay, so if I go to a Rawson, Clarendon home, these project builders, I go in there, I know pretty much what the finished product is going to be like, right?
And there might be restrictions on what I can select too. So like, these are the tap fittings and you can't veer from that.
Okay.
You know, these are the only supply you can use for tiles. This is, there definitely is restrictions on what you can select with these, with them. That's to streamline the process. I mean, it's to simplify the process going through for them.
Okay.
And that works again for some people, but some people are like, no, well, I want to choose different types of taps.
Okay.
They're process driven. The point of their business is to kind of have the same products as much as possible and replicate that. So they're using the same trades, less mistakes, etc. from there. So
so if I had my own design, if I want to knock down, rebuild my own home, Charbel, and I have my own design, which is non-project, I want to design it myself. I'll have the design. I have what fixtures I want, all that, and I'll go, hey, Charbel, this is what I need done. This is where you come in place, essentially. Yeah.
But we also have our own designs too. I also have, we kind of cater to both a little bit.
Yeah.
The other thing about them as well, which is another reason why I actually moved more into building in your initial question, a Clarendon or a Rawsons or so on from there don't do the landscaping. Okay. So they literally just deliver the home.
Right.
And don't deliver that, you know, the driveways generally and those things that are left for you to finish after the build. Now, they can be a very costly component of the build and also a very complex component of the build. I've noticed that that was an issue for a lot of clients. So as a landscaper, we were coming in at the end. We no longer had access to the site. The client hadn't correctly budgeted for the costs involved in doing the landscaping. And when we're talking about landscaping, we're talking about retaining walls. They're critical components. They're not just simply plants and visual components as part of it. And people just they run out of money. And you see it quite constantly. You see it a lot, especially in the newer states where people are sitting, they've moved into a house and they've kind of got mud around it because they've just kind of run out of money. It's quite a common thing that happens. And this is what led me to moving more into, initially we were having the same problem with pools, like pool builders. There was a disconnect between the pool builders and the landscapers. And then then there was a disconnect between the landscaping and the building. So I kind of just kept naturally progressing because we wanted to be able to deliver that client that ultimate full product at the end of the build. Okay. That was something that was really important to me.
So what some builders classify as turnkey is just a house?
100%.
But your turnkey is, mate, finished product, I'm ready to go.
That's right.
Landscaping, pool, fencing, done.
Because that was kind of another problem we found. Like early on when we were doing landscaping, the pool builders were separate and there was always a disconnect. You know, there'd be problems with how the pool was situated and access, because the pool builders were kind of very similar. They would just simply put in the shell and, you know, leave. But again, a pool's not as simply just a shell. There's always, you got to finish around the pool as part of it as well. The same thing was happening with the houses. There's just this disconnect all through the process that never worked. It wasn't delivering the best product for the client. And sometimes the businesses that were doing that were doing it on purpose. Their money is made in the shell, it's made in the house, and they're just trying to simply get in, make the quickest money, and then leave that to the client. So I'm not saying all businesses were like that, but they don't want you to know that your landscape is going to cost you $150,000 because that's going to take away from their kitchen and from their, they'll tell you it's $50,000 or whatever. So you have to be careful from that perspective as well, yes.
Fair enough.
And that was one thing we wanted to deliver to our clients.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about the building industry itself. Right? Let's take that one step back. Let's talk about how the building changed the last 24 months. Okay, so I'm going to give an example. I think 24 months ago, we done a lot of construction loans for around the hills area. House and land, right? Because land registered, ready to build, right? So we had a lot of that, building loans, okay? But so we've probably seen a decrease in building loans by about 80% the last probably 12 months.
Yes.
Okay, right? There's a few reasons, right? They're saying, cost of building is too much now. Right? We can't get supplies. We can't get trades. Right? And also, I've also spoken to a valuer that values around the hills area. He goes, Tony, anything that's brand new, newly built, or anything that's extensively renovated is going at a premium. Can you comment on what I've just said?
Definitely. So I think this can be divided into two parts, right? Pre-COVID and post-COVID. I think that's where it kind of, you see the change happen. Obviously, COVID changed a lot of things. So one of those things was, I think, there were a number of factors here. So there was the availability of labour became an issue. The availability of supplies also became an issue. The cost of land became another issue. The supply of land also became another issue. And the cost of housing, as in pricing of real estate itself, right? So I'm not going to go through every single part of those components and explain, but I think the two kind of biggest ones in building was supply was a major issue. Like
supplies in what?
Supply of materials. Let's start with that. Like at one stage you couldn't get timber.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that was huge. I mean, there was what happened, the availability of it was a major problem, and it was delaying jobs from up to 3 to 6 months, which is huge. That was number one. And then obviously when supply is limited, pricing also goes up as part of it as well. So that's one example. Timber was just one example. There's another, there's hundreds of supply. Like I remember one of the situations we had on one of our jobs, the kitchen company could not get left-hand sliders on the drawers. Like it was so insane, some of the things that you couldn't have, that weren't available. Like you would just never imagine it. And that was due to lockdowns. That was due to shipping issues throughout, between internationally as well. So there were a lot of and there was also a global demand of increase in building itself. So what happened during COVID, people weren't spending money on holidays during lockdowns, and weren't spending money. All of a sudden they're just like, well, let's start renovating our house. Let's upgrade our house. Let's take a pool. So there was just this, and that was international. It wasn't only in Australia. So, and we most of our products come internationally as well. A lot of our products come from an international.
Okay.
So that was one element of it, right? Another element was the labour shortages. So a lot of labour comes, I think, from overseas here. A lot of them went back. And also I think we have one thing that...
Sorry, was that during COVID or was that pre-COVID?
During COVID, I think we had less migration coming in through, but then some people left, go back and to their countries. And I also think something we haven't touched on, we have an aging population. So our demographic has also been changing at the same time. Like a lot of people, I don't think there's many young people available and they're not going into the trade. So we that's part of it as well. So there was just this serious trade shortage.
Right. So that'll become an issue long-term as well then?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to become a problem anytime soon. I don't think that problem's going to be resolved anytime soon. They're trying to resolve it with migration, which will help, I think. But then you require skilled labour. And that's going to take time to train. Like it just doesn't happen overnight. I don't think it comes from overseas and it's automatically solved. So they were kind of, I think, the two pressing areas that was creating the problem. So we had contracts blowing out in timeframes and costs going up. And a builder is cash flow is king for them, you know. I've explained this before. So my job ultimately is I'm securing the contract with my client.
Yes.
With the person I've sold the house to.
Yes.
And then I'm getting a trade to do the works, and I'm taking that little bit in between. That's how I make my profit. Now, if that little bit in between now has doubled, I'm in serious trouble. It's cash flow, you know. We are managing money, the majority of it. And that's where a lot of these builders started to get into serious trouble in relation to it.
All right, so now let's talk about trouble, right? Because we've seen trouble with builders. Doesn't matter if it's big, small, medium-sized. They've been in trouble. Some have actually been liquidated, right? Administration. How has the building industry changed the last 24 months?
I think the better businesses have adapted. I mean, I think there was a lot of inefficiency because there was so much work. So that some of the bad builders have they've gone into liquidation. Some of them genuinely might not have been bad builders. They were just, their timing was really bad.
They got stuck in the mix of it.
They got stuck in the mix of it. So I'm not going to be critical of every builder that's gone into administration was a badly run business. There are elements where they were just got unlucky in relation to it. I think builders have got smarter with their contracts, like I have in myself. Like I'm very weary of our timeframes. I've added additional clauses, like because you never ever had a situation where all of a sudden timber's just not available.
100%.
So we're just like, if something happens out of our control, that's not on us. But that makes clients more weary. They're stuck in a problem as well. So,
because they're stuck.
And hence that leads to why they're kind of reluctant to build and why you're having the issue of finished products and not wanting to build. I think that's kind of been important. I think that's changed things that's changed the dynamic a little bit
Yep.
In the industry. And you've seen the rise of cost plus contracts, more fixed price are not as much.
Okay, just to cut with that, right? So what about you explain to the audience what is a fixed price and a cost plus?
Yeah.
Right, because I can tell you right now, right, banks don't typically like cost plus contracts. They like fixed price.
Yep.
Right, but look, for our new investors, for our new home buyers, can you explain a bit to them?
So a fixed price contract will be you engage me to build your house, you have the plans available. It's $500,000 to build your house, and that's the cost.
Yep.
There sometimes might be some provisional sums, very minor provisional sums for unforeseens and some things that need clarification. But on the whole, it's generally a fixed price contract, and it shouldn't vary from.
And this generally majority of the contracts are building contracts, right?
Yeah, that's the majority. Yeah, I'd definitely say. But also, it's also sits project builders a fixed price all the time. Generally.
Yep.
That's one thing. And another thing, it tends to be at a certain level of the market as well. So I think always kind of usually the sub 1 million is always fixed price. I've tend to have seen.
Yep. That's a bit much.
Yeah,
that's on a very high end. A mil.
That's a very broad statement. But I think people are doing cost plus of 500,000.
Yeah.
I've very rarely ever seen it. Like they tend to do cost plus when you start going to that.
Okay.
That's that past that $1 million range. So fixed pricing doesn't change.
Yep.
When we do cost plus, it's generally cost plus 20%, right? So I'll go to my client and I'll say, okay, we estimate this build to cost 1.5 million.
Yep.
We run the numbers. We don't simply just not have any numbers. But what we're going to do is, as the invoices come in, we add 20% on for our margin.
Because that's your essentially project management fee.
That's a project management fee.
Right. Yeah.
But it's more than the project management fee.
Okay.
It's the project management fee. We inherit the risk of anything going wrong.
Correct. Yep.
We inherit we also have to provide the money. We're also paying all the contractors. We're assuring the materials on site. It is more than project management. It is. It's not just project management. Like I said, a big part of our job is we provide. We have to warranty for 7 years, so that has to be factored into that. As well.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So I just don't want to say it's just project management.
Right. Fair enough.
Yes, it is a big part of it. And so we'll say this is. We will start invoicing you plus 20% as we go throughout the build. What this tends to do. The clients that tend to take this more detailed jobs, the ones that want to change throughout their build a lot too.
Yep.
And those kind of jobs that are a little bit harder to quote because they're more bespoke in their products, in their selection. So that's why you tend to see that market is more the 1 million plus.
Fair enough.
That's where you see it.
But this cost plus can also, would you say, okay, let me ask you this question, right?
But banks hate it.
The banks hate it? No, I'm not saying the banks hate it, but I'm saying if it's cost plus and there's no fixed price contract, there's a big possibility where
of course,
these clients can also go above 100%. What they want to spend,
and
right?
They tend to be cash clients that do this.
Yeah, all right.
That's the truth of it. I tend to find they're cash clients or they're heavily cash-based clients. So they might have 70% of it and then they're borrowing 30%.
Yeah, fair enough. And
it's very rarely a high. If you're looking at it from your part of it, you're not going to have a 20-80%, like a 20% deposit and an 80% deposit. It's just generally they are not doing cash plus.
Right. And would you say, look, and I know, but I'll let you explain a bit more. Okay. Let's call it last 12 months, we have seen a few big builders, what doesn't matter if it's Sydney, Melbourne, WA, even like have liquidated administration because of these fixed price contracts. Right. They've sold 2 years ago. Pre-COVID.
100%.
Yeah, pre-COVID, right? And I'll let you explain to the audience what problems they came up to for them to get into so much trouble the last few months and had into a point where they had to go into administration.
Yeah, so what happened, they had fixed price contracts, right? And let's say they had allowed for their frames as part of their contract. Their cost price was say $80,000 for that project.
Back then when they quoted it?
When they quoted it.
Yep.
All of a sudden COVID comes in. See, the other thing, I'll try not to jump around too much, but the other thing that's important is the length of these contracts. So what might happen is they provide that tender proposal
a year before
they started even building.
Yes, correct.
It's very possible. Like
correct.
Particularly on an unregistered land.
Correct. 100%.
When you're on greenfield estates. So sometimes they could even be up to 2 years.
Correct.
So they provided that tender. They might have back then. And so what they've done, COVID comes in, the prices are now doubling, right? No business, their margin generally works somewhere between 15 to 25%. I don't know many builders that are working any outside of those kind of margin rates.
And is there a reason why they work off that sort of margin? Is it for insurance purposes? Or is it
no, so homeowners warranty usually wants you at that, but the reason they've established that, a building company is not sustainable to be run I think beyond that. It's just not. It's just not sustainable for them. So I think that is generally the rate it sits at. But it's you just can't run a business sustainably for much more if you're going in less those margins. Now we're now talking
back to my question.
Back to my
original question. Right.
So they've now doubled. They've now doubled. So their margins wiped out. Their money is now coming out of their pocket. Right. And this is not happening just on frames. This is happening across the board. On all their materials.
Trades or materials, right?
Across. Now, unless they've got millions of dollars cash in the bank, they're going to liquidate. They're going to fold.
Right. So now it's like, hey, it's not these builders are not liquidating, going to administration because they were poor on their cash flows, but it's because the cost of materials, the cost of labor shot up substantially. Where pretty much anyone didn't know. It shot up that high.
No. It's unforeseen. Right? And not the word. It's not even the word unforeseen. Right. It's never happened. It's never happened like this. I don't think historically you can never point where this ever happened. It's just not happened.
Right. Okay. So
now I'm doing 3 builds at a time. You now do a company that's doing 100 builds, and that happens across the board. That compounds. They're gonna liquidate. They're not gonna be able to run their businesses.
Right. Okay. So Charbel, you've been in the building game for a very long time. Yeah. Okay.
20 years. Yes.
Right. So the last 5 years, that's probably when we've seen the peak of the the building cycle. Now to pretty much the bottom. Right. So let's say, what percentage do you think the cost of materials and the cost of labor have increased since COVID?
That's very difficult. It all varies in different parts of the market, but I've got to say it's at least 30%. I think they've
increase.
Least, yeah, I think so.
So you're saying if I sign a contract 12 months, let's say 18 months ago for a bill for call it $500,000, now it's going to cost me $650.
I think it varies again, but I don't think it's unusual. It has gone up so substantially. It's not funny.
Wow,
I think it has. I think it has. And this is what's turning people off building. This is why they're afraid. I think the market has plateaued. Not the market, I should say, building supplies and stuff are kind of plateauing now, and it's not going up at the same rate it was. And it's definitely better. But as everyone knows, prices don't go backwards.
So
never go backwards.
So what are you foreseeing?
What I foresee, I've spoken to others in the building industry. This is now becoming a building where it's a spec market. So builders that have their own land and are building their own houses and selling it
as a finished product
are very successful.
Are
doing very well right now.
Right. Because there's a few around the Western Sydney area.
100%.
But we're not going to name the names, right?
No, that's right. There's a few around, and they're selling very well because people do not want to inherit the risk with building.
Defaulting,
all of those things. They want a finished product. So if you have your own land, you can provide a finished product. I think you'll be very successful. And you can see that in the real estate market, right? I think 24 months ago, the best, if you look at a house, the houses that in a street that were fetching the highest price were the knockdown rebuilds.
Yes, correct.
Now it's the opposite. The houses that are fetching the best prices in that street are the completed homes, renovated homes, those houses, because no one wants to
build. And that's what the valuer said, right? Anything that's
exactly right.
Anything that's newly built around 100%. The hills area, anything that's highly renovated, right, it's going at a premium right now because they don't want to inherit. Well, number one, they don't want to inherit the risk. Number two, they don't want to inherit that headache of getting trades.
See, this brings me to another point that's really important. And I think there's a little misconception in the market. So people go to a larger builder, like the project builders, because they believe there's financial stability because they're a bigger builder.
Correct. Yep.
And there is some element of truth to that. A lot of them are have international backers as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's because the Japanese backers.
That's because like a first time buyer, like so a first time builder. Who am I going to trust? Right? Am I going to trust someone that's independent that builds 1 or 2 houses a year, or I'm going to go to someone that's a project builder in a home world, for example? Okay. Right.
So they have huge overheads.
Right.
When things start to go wrong with pricing and in the materials, it compounds, as I've said. They, in my opinion, are at the same or more risk than a smaller builder like myself.
Right.
If I have 1 or 2 builds go wrong, I can wear that. It's only 1 or 2.
Yep.
We can tend to wear that. I can move on to the next project. But a larger builder who has hundreds of projects going like that with that problem is, I think, a greater risk than someone like myself. There's also a belief that these builders are backed by large international companies. Like, I'll give you an example. A lot of these larger project homes
are owned by overseas companies.
Overseas by companies like Japanese. The Japanese have a big play in most of them, right?
Correct.
And there's a belief that they'll just keep pumping money into them. And I don't agree with that. I mean, they want a return on their money. Yeah. If they keep losing money, they're going to shut them down at some point. So I'm not confident to say that I think just because someone's a larger builder, they have more financial stability. I think it's probably almost the opposite. Yeah, because they've got greater exposure to the whole.
Well, especially if they are for example, especially if they are for example, like a builder, like let's just call it, I don't know, Metricon, right? Metricon, right? They signed 800 contracts 2 years ago.
That's right.
At X amount of price. Now it's gone up 30%, their cost base. Then really they're losing money, right? Because that 30% cost base would have been their margin. Right?
That's what I'm saying. They're more exposed.
Yeah.
They're a lot more exposed. So, and I think we're seeing that play out in the market a little bit,
So accounting for what we've just spoke about,
it's very doom and gloom.
Yeah. What's a few things our audience that's building, that's starting to build, first home, first investment, regardless, should watch out?
You've got to get to know your builder. Don't go just based on the product they're presenting. Understand what they are building, understand their background. I think reviews are massively important. Google reviews, product reviews. You can just jump online and see it straight away. They're some of the better. I think they're very obvious. Are they also offering homeowners warranty? Look at their licenses.
Okay, so before you jump into that, because I know you jump into a few vetting.
Yeah.
So what should a consumer look out for in a builder, right, to essentially say they're legit? What should they be looking
licensing is the first thing. So you look up their licensing on New South Wales First Fair Trading.
Yep.
You could look up their license straight away, and that will tell you if they've had any warnings issued against them, what they're actually licensed for.
Oh, so this is all public detail?
It's all public detail. This is all available.
How many do you have?
None. Zero. We have no warnings against us.
Hey, check him up. Check him up.
By all means, Refined Group, look it up. We have nothing against us. Whether they are insured for homeowners warranty, which is, it will tell you whether they are or not.
Yeah.
So that's the first line of attack. I mean, I think that if that's pretty important. The next are social medias. You look at their social media. I've got a thing, if they're not posting on social media, like, I don't know, I think there's, what are they hiding maybe? But like, if they're not, every building company is now posting on socials.
Yeah.
Like it's a pretty massive thing, because you can also see over time what they've done and what their latest projects are and what's going on from there. Websites, standard, should have a decent website. I also think in the website, in the About Us, they should be talking about their directors. If the director's hiding a little bit, it's a little concern. Like,
well, especially for a smaller builder.
Yeah. You see about me. I am the face of the company. So if they're not if they're not talking about their director, I don't understand why. Like, a lot of the time they don't want to, because they don't want to be. They might not be paying trades and stuff. They don't want to know who owns the company as well. Like, so they're the little things. And then referrals, personal referrals are always a great thing. People who have worked with that company. Also, locality becomes a big thing. Like, so builders tend to start to build local to certain areas.
Right.
Like we are predominantly northwest and western suburbs.
Right. Okay.
And there's a reason for that as well, because they understand the council regulations better. Their trade bases might be around there. So if you're, let's say,
so
you live in the Southern Highlands.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a builder from Gosford.
Right. Fair enough.
That's what I'm trying to say, right? That's what I'm getting from there. Like, someone who's local to your area is important as well.
Right.
So locality is important.
So all these traders you use are all long term.
Yeah. We've established relationships with them for years.
Right.
That's kind of they are.
So you want to keep it quality.
My company.
You want to keep it quality, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Over quantity.
We don't like working with new trades we haven't tested before.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's the important. And so hence I don't like building, not like in the upper Gosford, because my trade base is not based there. And I can do it, but it's not my preference ultimately, because a lot of my trades aren't going to want to go there.
Correct.
So like I said, I'm not saying it's an impossibility, but again, I prefer to build where we're based. For that reason, because I know those guys, I trust them, I've worked with them multiple time and time again. They're reputable companies and so on from there. So I think that's an important part of it as well. So I think if you kind of look at all those combined factors, you're going to find someone who works for you as part of it. And then also, when they present the pricing, it should be, in a proper tender format. And it should be very detailed in the quotes from there. So that's important as well. So I think, all those, if you get all those right, it'd be unlikely something you're going to get the right person.
All right. So how do you see the building industry, how they're going to go in the next 24 months? We touched a bit on the finished product, right? But
as I said, I think it's going to slow down.
Yep.
But that kind of almost needs to happen as well.
Like because we'll go too fast, mate.
It's too fast. I can see from my trades, you weren't able to get them. Like, it needs a bit of a slowdown.
Yep.
That also clears out some of the bad businesses, the unproductive businesses. I still think there is a lot of people that are in the position to build. I still think there's work around. I think it goes more back to a bit of an arcade. There is still a lot of knockdown rebuilds around.
Yep.
Those people who are sitting on, they own the house outright and they want to rebuild. I think that's going to be a big part of the market.
Yep.
And then but I think more in the greenfield estates, which are your Oran Parks, your Marsden Parks, where they're doing massive land releases.
Yep.
I think you'll see those products change to more of a spec market.
Right.
I think, whereas the builders are building and selling a finished product, I think that would start to be more of the process going there. But there's still plenty of work around. There'll be still a lot of, there'll still be building happening, but it's going to slow down a bit.
Right.
As I said, I think that's kind of needed in the market as well.
Okay. So let's talk about the last 24 months, the projects that you've dealt with.
Yep.
And I think you have a project yourself, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about all these costs, headaches, trade shortages. Can you explain to our audience what sort of headaches that you've come across the last 12 months with your projects? Yeah.
So again, you talk pre-COVID and post-COVID, but in the last 24 months, the projects let's say last 12 months. Yeah, in the last 12 months, the headaches have been trade shortages. That's probably been the largest ones. It's been hard to find, get the trades when we need them. That's kind of been difficult. It's not getting them because I'm working with the same guys, but they're just ultra busy and trying to line them all up as part of it. Also, let's not just talk about building. We'll talk about the approval processes have been difficult.
As a council approval?
Councils have been slow.
Okay.
Just consultants have been slow. They've got their own backlogs.
Yeah, but slow because they're too busy. Is that why? Or slow because they're so stringent on certain things?
Yeah, so bureaucracy, I think, they're more stringent. There's more rules in place. That's all increased as part of it. So there's been a backlog of just trying to get jobs to site as well. I think they're kind of the critical thing. And then we've also had rain. We had so much rain last year. It was difficult. We were slowed down on jobs as well from that sense. There was just so we've had a bit of a perfect storm happen. They've kind of been the critical things I think that have happened from me. Definitely.
Okay. So as a first time builder,
Yep.
right? Are there certain things that when you talk to a customer where they don't think about, but you bring it up to them?
Yeah. So yes, there are. So if I'm looking to build and I want to build a brand new home, the first point of contact I start with is the land.
Right.
Now, the location of that land, the fall on that land, the access to that land, they're immediately the first three things that are really important. Now, let's say on a $500,000 home, if you have all those things are very complex, it could easily add 100 to 150,000 to the cost of that.
Right. So just explain that a bit more. You're talking about, for example, if it's sloping, you need more concrete, for example, right?
If it's sloping, you're going to have more site costs. You're going to have drop edge beams. You're going to have to put splits in the house. You're going to have to have additional retaining walls around the site. So that all increased costs.
In other words,
you've got more concrete. You've got more formwork to that concrete. Your frames increase. So there adds a whole heap of complexities around it.
Yeah.
If you're on a main road and then you need to access becomes an issue. You need to employ traffic control, which easily could be anywhere between $20,000 to $50,000 throughout the project. You've got to shut down that road every time you get a delivery. So that becomes a complexity as well. So that's where we talk about access and location as well. So they're the first things that are important. Now, if you're looking at a project home, they might say anything more than 1.5 meters fall across your block, we won't even build for you.
Right, really?
So you can't even go to a project home to build that product.
Right.
If the block is then a triangular shape, right, their blocks are designed, so their houses are designed usually for a 10 meter frontage, a 12.5 meter frontage, and then a 15 meter frontage.
Right.
So they have specific designs because that's how the Greenfield Estates land is broken up, right?
Yeah, subdivided. Yeah, correct.
So their standard designs are based on that. Now, if you're out of that, if your block shape is out of that standard, their houses won't work.
Yeah, gotcha.
So that is important in when you're looking, I think, for a build, like into well, that's the first step. That's one of the most, I think, are quite an important thing. The next steps, I think, once you've got past that and you've established all of it, is the design. What kind of design you want?
Yep.
Are you going to go something for ultra modern? Are you going in a classic? That's all. I mean, something tends to be more ultra modern is going to cost you more. Classic is just going to be, which is like brick of facade with some render potentially. It's going to be cheaper. So you have to know where you sit, but you also have to know where that sits in the landscapes of the surrounding area you're in as well. So one of the things I really dislike is when you go to an older area and they've just put this ultra modern and either side of them is like a fibro house. Like it's one of my, it's just a personal pet hate. And that brings to another point. Are you overcapitalizing for your area? Because everyone will say to me, no, it's my dream home for the next 20 years. There is no dream home for the next, I just think circumstances always change. And it is not, and I tell my clients this all the time, it is not smart to overcapitalize, no matter what you think and how long you're going to think you're going to be here. God forbid your partner might die tomorrow and you have to change circumstances. And if you've spent $2 million on a home, right, and then you've spent $1 million on that land, and the highest sales price in the whole street, the whole suburbs has been $2 million, you're not going to get that money back.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just, so you have to take that into consideration. Don't fall in love with the display home when you walk in. Don't fall in love with the Instagram photos. Keep it to the means of the area, I think is really important. Is a really important. Now, if you're in the eastern suburbs building on a water frontage, that doesn't matter. But I think the audience we're mainly talking to here are like us. Like
mum and dads, normal mum and dads, right?
You. Like it's, then they're not doing that. So I think that's a really important part of it.
So essentially for our audience out there that's looking to go to auction, buying a property, knocking down and rebuild, you should be talking to a builder first.
Yes.
To make sure that land is
a builder or an architect, right? Exactly right. Like I've seen that happen a lot where they've just on the day fallen in love and thought it's going to work, and then that property, it's going to be a lot more to build than they initially thought. And that happens with renovations as well. May I just add, like they think, it's just going to be a bathroom, whatever, and there's more critical issues involved in that house to change it to the way you need to change it to. So I think that's and then I think the next thing is the type of way you're going to build that house. Is a brick veneer? Does it need suspended slabs? That's getting a bit more technical. It's something you need to talk to your builder about, but that also impacts pricing, timeframes, and the way it's going to be built as well. And then I think the final thing is the externals, which is always overlooked. Like you're retaining, like you don't want to have a house. I think especially like one of my slogan in the business is, modern Australian living. And what I mean by that in our business is I think most people want to have a pool and a nice alfresco in the backyard. That's how we live. We have a beautiful climate in this country, and you want to live with your externals finished. You want to live. You don't want to live in mud at the back of your house once the house is handed over. I think you have to factor that all in as part of your pricing, not just building the house itself.
Yeah, 100%.
Really important.
So Charbel, thanks for your time today, and I'm sure our audience got a lot of insight in the building industry. Now, just so our audience can know, where can they find you?
So best place is Instagram, so Refined Group. Also our website, www.refinedgroup.com.au. And you can get all the information that you need from us from there. You'll be able to see everything.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. And I hope you guys have a great day.